Welcome to the Odysseys Unlimited Traveling Owls webinar. My name is Shannon Burnett. I am the Assistant Director with Alumni Programs in charge of the Traveling Owls portfolio. And I'm here to answer any RICE or Traveling Owls specific questions and make sure things run smoothly. But I really encourage you to utilize this time with Kate and learn more about Odysseys Unlimited and the 2022 trips they have with the Traveling Owls. First, I do want to have some friendly reminders for the Zoom platform. So if you feel comfortable, we'd love for you to have your video on. You're welcome to wait until after the presentation to do so, but also it's completely not a requirement at all. We do ask that you keep your audio on mute unless you are speaking or asking Kate a question to cut down on background noise. Kate is going to give an overview of their program and the Traveling Owls trips they've got, and then leave time for questions at the end. If you do think of questions while she is presenting, you're welcome to write them in the chat and we'll make sure we circle back to them. And then once the presentation is done, we've gotten through the chat questions, you're welcome to take yourself off mute and ask Kate questions directly. The last thing I would suggest is it might be helpful to be in speaker view so that you only see the presentation and the presenter. And now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Kate Hileman from Odysseys Unlimited. Since 2016, Kate has been a manager for special interest groups at Odysseys Unlimited Incorporated. And prior to joining the team, Kate worked at the University of Chicago as the Associate Director of Travel and Education in Alumni Relations and Development. So she is well versed in alumni travel. Her work experience includes more than 20 years of managing projects, including a lot of international initiatives. Kate, take it away.
Thank you so much, Shannon. It's great to be here, even if it's, as I said, rainy and dreary here in Boston. I wish I was in Houston at your annual event, which is one of the highlights of the year for me. I always love seeing people, hearing about their experiences on tours, and we can have a little bit of a look at what lies ahead in 2022 for the lineup with the Traveling Owls and Odysseys Unlimited. So as Shannon said, my name is Kate Hileman. I work at Odysseys Unlimited. We are a tour operator based outside of Boston, Massachusetts. And since 1998, we have been providing high quality, affordable small group travel to alumni programs. We are excited to begin our 12th year of partnering with Rice University. Travel, as you know, in 2021 and most likely into 2022 will be different due to health and safety protocols that are being implemented by Odysseys Unlimited on tour, at our hotels that we stay at, the restaurants, museums, etc., every facet of our lives. After I discuss each trip Rice is offering with us next year, I will provide a brief overview of the steps Odysseys Unlimited is undertaking to ensure the health and safety of guests and our staff on the ground while traveling during COVID-19. For those of you who have not previously traveled with Odysseys Unlimited, I have outlined here a few defining characteristics of what you can expect well on one of our tours. In particular, I would draw your attention to the following items. One, all of our small group tours are for just 12 to 24 guests. And as you know, when you travel in a smaller group, it's a really different dynamic than when you're with even 30 or 35 people, I've found when I've gone on group tours. So we really feel like this is the best number to be able to have that intimate, educational, and fun, interactive experience. I would also highlight that our tour directors are nationals from the countries you visit, and we think rank some of the best in the business. And what I really enjoy about our tour directors is that you're not only learning about the history of the sites you visit and the countries on tour and the architecture, but you're also gaining insight into the day-to-day life of the places you visit. So the food, the politics, depending on the tour director and what he or she wants to focus on, gossip, things like that. So that really is that additional level that I have enjoyed on our tours from our tour directors. And I would also highlight that we understand that maximum flexibility is most helpful in our COVID-19 travel world. So we do allow you the opportunity to book risk-free. Your deposit on any program is fully refundable until 95 days prior to departure, which is when final payment for all of our tours is required. So on to the actual trips. So I will start with Africa's wildlife, and I will point out that all of the trips that I'll talk about are exclusive departures for Rice Alumni Traveling Owls. So our first program is Africa's Wildlife. This 14-day, 11-night tour begins in cosmopolitan Johannesburg and ends in the remote and unspoiled preserve of the Lower Zambezi National Park. In between, we spend 2.5 days at Victoria Falls, which is pictured second one down on the right, a wonder of the natural world that straddles the border between Zambia and Zimbabwe. We enjoy 3 days viewing wildlife at Chobe National Park, which has an exceptional array of animals, including elephants, zebras, lions, giraffes, impalas, and buffaloes. After Chobe, we fly on a privately chartered plane to Lower Zambezi National Park, which is the former private sanctuary of Zambia's president. Here in one of Africa's last stretches of pristine wilderness, we spend 3 days and have the chance to get closer to the animals than anywhere else, with open vehicle wildlife drives, guided canoe trips, bushwalks, and boat safaris. And I've had a colleague describe this tour as you start in the city, then you go to a park, and then you end in this private reserve. So you're getting closer and closer to the animals, to wildlife, and as you get more comfortable. So it's a really nice mix of culture and history, some bucket list items such as Victoria Falls, and the animals, which is so breathtaking and amazing. So this program does offer a 4-day, 3-night post-tour extension to Cape Town in South Africa. And the price of the tour is $7,984, which includes flights, airline taxes, and fees from the gateway cities of Boston, New York, and DC. We can book flights from anywhere in the US, but throughout the presentation, I will be sharing the gateway costs, which is always the lowest cost for each tour. Okay, and on to Japan, Insiders Japan, which is also, it's a program I will share. I'm personally planning to be going on next March. So, so many elements that I look forward to, but it's one of our most popular programs. So this is a 13-day, 11-night tour that features the highlights of Tokyo and Kyoto, engages us in local life, and takes us off the beaten path to the lovely historic cities of Takayama and Kanazawa. The tour includes 2 train rides, 1 via bullet train, and no coach ride is longer than 2 hours. We begin with a 3-night stay in Tokyo, which includes a visit to Fuji Hakone Izu National Park, the location of Mount Fuji, the dormant volcano that rises to over 12,000 feet. Departing Tokyo, we travel to Hakone, where we spend 1 night in a ryokan, a traditional Japanese inn, before heading to Takayama the next day via bullet train. Takayama, located in the Japanese Alps, is considered one of the country's most attractive towns, and where we spend the next 2 nights. Next up is the castle town of Kanazawa, located on the West Coast. After a 2-night stay in the culturally rich city of Kanazawa, we travel via train to Kyoto, formerly Japan's imperial capital, and now the country's cultural and artistic center. We have 3 days to explore Kyoto with more than 100 temples, hundreds of shrines, artful gardens, and historic architecture. On tour, you will also have several opportunities to learn about local life, from attending a traditional Japanese tea ceremony, seeing how traditional Japanese washi paper is made, to visiting a local market with a chef to gather ingredients for lunch we prepare together. This program offers a 3-day, 2-night post-tour extension to Hiroshima. The gateway price from Los Angeles is $6,484, which includes flights, airline, taxes, and fees. And on to a completely, somewhat close by, but completely different tour, exploring Australia and New Zealand, September 28th through October 19th. This is a 22-day tour, and I will point out that if you are going all the distance to Australia and New Zealand, we feel that it is important to spend some time and really get to see both countries, but it is a commitment of time. This 22-day adventure begins with a 3-night stay in Cairns, the gateway to Australia's far north and the Great Barrier Reef, where we have a day-long excursion. We then take a flight to remote Alice Springs, where we embark on an Aboriginal Dreamtime experience and meet with Walpiri tribes people to learn about their ancient culture. We motor coach to Ayers Rock, where we watch the sunset over the sandstone monolith that rises to a height of more than 1,000 feet. And from the remote interior, we travel to Sydney, where we explore the city for 3.5 days. In addition to leisure time to explore as we wish, we take a lunch cruise around Sydney Harbor, visit popular Bondi Beach and Featherdale Wildlife Park, where wombats, dingoes, and koalas reside. And of course, tour the iconic Sydney Opera House. We then fly to beautiful New Zealand, where we begin our tour in the city of Christchurch on the South Island. Highlights of our time there include visiting the renowned Botanic Gardens and the Christchurch Cathedral. After a 1-night stay in Christchurch, we journey via motor coach to Mount Cook National Park in the Southern Alps. During our 2-night stay in Mount Cook, we visit the Hillary Alpine Center and have time to relax amidst the breathtaking views, hike, or take an optional scenic flight. Our next stop is Queenstown, New Zealand's adventure capital and resort town, where we spend 3 nights. In addition to time on your own to explore, we have a day-long excursion to Milford Sound, where we take a nature cruise through the spectacular fjords. And that's pictured on the bottom left. And I have been to Milford Sound. I would just say that it is one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had in my life. Just breathtaking and stunning and not to be missed. We fly next to the South Island, from the South Island to the Maori Center of Rotorua on the Northern Island. Rotorua is known for its geysers, bubbling mud pools, and thermal hot springs. And the journey comes to a close on the North Island in New Zealand's capital of Auckland, where we have a half-day tour of the city and visit the War Memorial Museum with its prized Maori and Pacific Islander collections. For those wishing to explore the city more on your own, we offer a 3-day extension in Auckland. The gateway price here is from Los Angeles, and it is $9,184, which includes flights, airline taxes, and fees. And the final tour offered next year is Moroccan Discovery, October 2nd through the 15th. This comprehensive 14-day, 12-night tour to Morocco provides an opportunity to explore this country in depth, experiencing a land of dramatic contrasts. On this journey, we will travel to the imperial cities of Rabat, Fez, and Marrakesh, the high Atlas Mountains, and the vast Sahara. The journey begins when we arrive into Casablanca with the transfer to our first leg of the journey, Rabat, where we stay 2 nights exploring the country's capital city. We then depart Rabat for a 3-night stay in Fez. It is about a 3-hour drive, and along the way we visit Meknes, which was the capital city for over 50 years. On tour, we experience the varied terrain of this country and cover considerable ground via motor coach. You can see in the map, we're really doing a tour of the entire country and seeing all of the terrain, including the desert and the mountains. However, on tour, we never drive more than an hour and a half without a stop, and we use full-size motor coaches throughout the trip. The geographic diversity of Morocco is on display as we cross the fertile plains beyond Fez and continue through the Middle Atlas mountain range to Erfoud and the edge of the Sahara. We stay 2 nights in Erfoud and experience a tour highlight, an excursion to the sand dunes to take a camel ride and dine together while watching the sunset over the desert. And that's the second picture on the right. After our 1-night stay in Ouaharazade, we travel on to Marrakesh, where we spend 3 nights. Marrakesh was once the capital of southern Morocco, and we explore all that this imperial city has to offer. The tour ends with the final stay in Casablanca. The gateway price from Boston, New York, DC for this tour is $5,479, which includes airfare, taxes, and fees. Now, before we go into any questions, I did want to provide you with some information about our health and safety protocols, which we've implemented for 2021. And I know we're discussing 2022 trips. I do not know if all or some of these will continue on until 2022. It really is one of those things that we can't know with COVID. It's sort of an everyday. You have to see where things are. There's so many unknowns. However, our guiding principle will continue to be the health and safety of our guests, as well as our staff members on tour. That will continue to be our highest priority. So currently, we require guests to either be fully vaccinated or produce a negative COVID-19 PCR test that's taken no more than 4 days prior to arrival on tour. The process is we send COVID-19 related forms to guests at approximately 115 days prior to departure. Guests are required to read, sign, and agree to the health and safety protocols outlined, which are somewhat standard: wearing masks, maintaining social distance, if not in a family unit. I'll go into some of those in the next slide. There may be additional entry requirements by foreign governments. Those are obviously not controlled by us and often changing. Right now, we are making the determination to operate each trip a few months prior to departure, and more specifically at 60 days. For trips that are moving forward 4 to 6 days prior to departure, we will be contacting guests and conducting a health screening and answering any questions. And here I've outlined some of the requirements that we have put into place to maintain a healthy environment for travel. These are our protocols, and then we have specific ones for each and every program that we offer. Outlined here are some of the precautions being taken, but further details can be found online at Odysseys Unlimited's website. And I believe Shannon was going to post that in the chat for you because it's a bit of a long URL. Thank you, Shannon. So as I said, none of these are really surprising. Face coverings, temperature checks, monitoring for COVID-19 symptoms, physical distancing, spacing on motor coaches, if not in a family unit, etc. So I will open up for questions, but I did also want to point out, I understand that everyone has a different level of comfort for travel, but when you are ready to book, I wanted to provide you with the main number for our customer service staff, the 1-888-370-6765. As I mentioned previously, deposits are fully refundable up to 95 days prior to departure, and it's $500 per person. Our staff work Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I want to thank you for coming this morning. I'm happy to take your questions, and if I don't have the answer right now, I will find out and get back to you. So I open up for questions.
Okay, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I took it off mute. So yesterday in the overview, there was a mention of some of the Traveling Owls trips being Rice only and some being other universities. So we've taken 2 trips so far. One was with John Bowles up to the Lewis and Clark Trail. That was a Rice only trip. And then the other was to the Baltic, and that one was just everybody. And there were very few Rice people on there. It was kind of disheartening. We say, oh, great. When did you go to Rice? I didn't go to Rice. Everybody went to some of the, there were even people from the Smithsonian. It was just kind of, so on this trip, what is your current thinking about Rice versus others?
Sure. So on this departure, on all of these departures, they are only marketed to the Rice community. So parents, friends, and alumni. I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
So these are considered what we call exclusive Rice Traveling Owls departures.
Okay.
But it also, in all fairness, for the Baltic trip, it's a cruise. So it's hard to fill up a cruise ship with one school's alumni, but
Yeah.
I understand it's very nice to travel with your peer group and to have that common connection. And that's why you travel.
It's not University of Texas. I'm okay.
I won't tell them they're also a school I work with, but.
Oh, well, you can't be perfect.
Thank you. But yes, these are all exclusive trips.
There was a question in the chat from Alan about the Africa trip. I don't know if you want to come off mute and ask that directly, Alan, or I can just read what you wrote. Okay, I will ask it. How many total days are spent in wildlife viewing? What vehicles are used, and what is the passenger capacity?
Sure. So wildlife viewing, I'm actually going to pull up my itinerary. So basically, your arrival and departure days, and while you're in Victoria Falls, you do have a wildlife drive. So if we want to count that, I would say it's more than half the tour is wildlife viewing, because essentially Chobe and Zambezi National Park, and you start at Chobe on day 7. So a rough count is 7 days doing or viewing wildlife. And then of course you have your 2 travel days as well. So it's really I would say 2/3 animal and 1/3 Victoria Falls, Johannesburg. And then in terms of the vehicles, I will actually go back because I want to say you can see one of the vehicles. Yeah, so there are a variety of vehicles used. I can double check if they're all open. You can see in this one picture, it's open air, but we have on this trip several, guided canoe safaris and river safaris. So it is a variety of vehicles, but I'll have to confirm the passenger count. But I can send that information to Shannon, because this, we have a few safari tours where you're in the same vehicles throughout, But this is a different program because there are multiple flights and you change vehicles a lot. So I'll find out and let you know exactly what the type of vehicles and passenger count on each one is. Other, I know we only have 3 or so minutes left, but other questions?
I got a
Jim,
brochure on the Vietnam trip scheduled for later this year. Is that likely to occur?
You know, I am personally feeling very hopeful about a November trip. I'm feeling very hopeful, frankly, about September, October. So I think, you know, right now my answer is yes. It is really hard to know the future because 3 months ago I would have said India's in fine shape. So things can change with COVID a bit on a dime. So I feel we as a company are feeling very confident about our fall trips. But really that 60-day mark is the point where we as a company for 2021 tours will be deciding if it's a go or a no-go. But I would put the odds pretty good right now. So far, indicators seem to be, you know, people are being vaccinated. It is far enough out that I am hopeful. So I know it's kind of an answer, no answer. It's really difficult as we've had to learn with COVID to be patient and flexible.
Jim, did you want to ask your question?
Yes, on the Morocco trip, is everything, it sounds like, I don't know if you have a target size for that trip. Is everything in essentially a full-size bus? That's what it was sounding like from the safety discussion.
Yes. So with really, I mean, it depends on where we are in the world, but with a tour like Morocco, they will be full-size passenger vans. And even before there was a COVID that we knew about, if we had a maximum of 24 guests on tour, our typical coach size is about 50 passenger. So built in, we had our 50% capacity. So we always have that space. That's the way we just operate tours, because people like to spread out. So particularly on Morocco, because you are covering a lot of the country and you are on the motor coach for that, there aren't flights. So it would be a full size, you know, around 50-person vehicle.
Thank you.
Sure.
We are right at time, and I want to address a couple of things that are in the chat before I close us out. Wanda, thank you for your Egypt suggestion for 2023. I already wrote it down and have it in my notes so that Kate and I can talk about that as we start planning for that this fall. And then Nancy, as of right now, there is not a Rice professor on the Morocco trip, but similar to my response about Sayuri, I am working right now with getting those faculty now that things have kind of opened up and Rice's policies on faculty travel have been a little bit more free. I'm now starting to get those people paired up. So I will look to hopefully get someone on that trip. No one as of right yet. And then if there are any additional questions that kind of pop through, please, you're welcome to reach out to Odysseys Unlimited directly. And if you want to scroll maybe, Kate, to that final slide that has y'all's number there.
Yes.
But then, as always, email travelingowls@rice.edu. For a couple of you guys that asked about personalized itineraries, those will be available on our website as we get them finalized. So check back there, or again, email travelingowls@rice.edu and I will give you as much as I've got. I want to be very cognizant of the time that we've taken from Kate and all of you guys. And so I am going to close out this session right now with just a big thank you to Kate and Odysseys Unlimited for all of your hard work this past year and a half. I'm very excited about these trips. Again, reach out to me if you have anything else. And thank you guys so much for spending a little bit of your morning with us. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It's good to see and hear from you. And I hope to see you in person next year.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Shannon.